Hey, welcome back to What Jack has made. In this video, we're going to be tidying up our Gatsby node file. So at the moment, our Gatsby node file has a ton of template literal strings and constant string values, which we're using to build out this huge query and then run multiple map statements within our, create pages API functions, which all in all is about 305 lines long. It's not really great to look at, not really great to work with, so we're going to tidy it up, and we're going to be using a file structure that I've adopted from Jason Barr's example of a Gatsby site. So we'll go to Jason Barr, Gatsby example. Might have spelled that wrong. No, that's good. And underneath WP GraphQL, we have the Gatsby GraphQL blog example, where if we go into the Gatsby node file, you can see it has a ton of external files being referenced instead of having all of the node functions in one place. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and we're going to open up our Gatsby node file, and right at the top, I'm going to go ahead and paste in what Jason has provided as an example. So we're not going to focus too much on creating users or categories or tags. We are going to focus on posts, pages, but then we also have another type, or a custom post type, if you will, which is the case studies. So we'll create cases just above that to keep it in alphabetical order. And we'll go ahead and remove these imports from locations which don't exist, and insert create cases above that, which will reference a create cases file. Now, instead of referencing a Gatsby directory, we're going to be creating a node directory to house all of our node processes and files. So we'll update that. And now we can kind of, we'll be removing the rest of the file and separating it separately into its own directories and files as we go along, but this is going to be our new Gatsby node file essentially. So to get started on the process, we're going to create a new directory called node, and within here we are going to have create cases.js, and to get an idea of what this will look like, we'll go back to the WP GraphQL example, and we'll go to the Gatsby directory, and we'll copy the create pages example for now. So copy this, and then I'll run through how this works. Actually, we'll create pages and isolate this for now. So we're getting the constant package path, which is what we normally do in our Gatsby node file, so we can remove that now. And then what we're doing is we're creating an asynchronous function, which we're exporting immediately to be imported to our node file. And this has our query called getPages, and it accepts two variables. One is first and one is after. So you could say get the first 10 pages or first 2 pages, and then it'll export an array of the pages based on the variables that you pass in, which we pass in down here at fetch pages. So a lot of this code I'm not actually going to make too much use of, so I want to get rid of a ton of this. And we're gonna await GraphQL data return all pages. So I'm going to remove all of that, and then we're going to say all pages equals data. Well, WP GraphQL isn't correct because we've got a different naming convention in our config file. So we want to get WordPress and replace it there. So the query is going to return data, which is going to be the WordPress object. So we'll do data.wordpress.pages.nodes. And we'll get rid of this page info bit. And we'll get rid of some of these parameters, because all I want is the first parameter. So I'll break this down again. So we've got our query, which is saying return all of the WordPress pages which are within our first 100 pages. We can go ahead and increase this to 500. And then underneath all the pages, get back the nodes. So we're going to rework this in a bit, but essentially this is similar to a lot of the queries we've done in graphical or within our Gatsby schema, just to get back some page information in the form of an array. And then we're doing the all pages map and creating a page, and this create page function is similar to our node file towards the bottom. So what we can do is we can take out this logic, because this logic is only for the pages, and bring it in here. And so we've got all pages for each. We could replace that to a map. Const is page, is front page, and then create action, source, components, templates page. This should work because I think that might use that directory as the relative path. And then we'll bring this console log in as well, just because it's quite nice to visualize what page is being created. So I'll go over this again. So essentially what we're doing is we are creating our own function, which takes in a query to get all the pages. Then we're running that query and getting back all of the pages in a node object, which is an array, or node property, which is the array, and returning it. So we could just do return that, and then for each page, we're going for each one and creating a page within Gatsby. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this and then slightly rework it for case studies. So case study logic is here. So we can go ahead, take that, replace our create case study. And case study. Cool. So we can get rid of that. Get rid of this. And this is what our case studies query looks like. So if I can just copy that, we could put it in here and then remove those. Cool. So that's our case study query. We can get our pages. Cool. And then all that's left is the posts. Okay, so we could update this. Fetch posts and update that for cases. Kind of want to just have a look out and see if there's any references to page anywhere in your files when reworking each file. So posts will be get posts, create page is still correct, but we want to say all posts. And then we want to update all references to page. And cool. And then back to our node file to get query. So under each node, we're getting back that information. I think that's correct. Yeah, that looks good. Cool. So fetch posts, getting each post. Then we are creating the pages using this logic. Cool. So essentially we've removed all of the queries and creating of pages out from the node file. So now all we've got left are these sort of like template strings, which I want to organize. So I do that by going into the node directory, creating a folder called, we'll call it blocks, and then we'll create a subfolder called ACF for all of our custom ACF Gutenberg blocks. And then I'll create one file for each block string or fragment we have, and then I'll add them to each one. So this bit will be fast forwarded because it'll take a while. So I've gone ahead and copied all of the ACF blocks into their own separate files. The best one to give a demonstration, I guess, would be the hero. So the hero has the same sort of syntax we had before in a template string, but the only difference is we are importing media fields and SEO fields as GraphQL fragments to be used within this template. So this is in a separate directory neighboring the blocks directory, which has media and SEO fields, which were previously available in our Gatsby node file. Now, the reason I've separated these is because we want to bring these fragments into not only blocks in the top, but we also want to bring these into the case studies page, which will need a slight update to the path. And then we want to also bring in these to the other create pages functions so that we can reference them within our page queries. So now we have our fragments for media fields and SEO fields separated, and we have all of our blocks separated. We still need to create a connection between the blocks and the create pages function. And we could do this in two different ways. One of them is by doing a const for the dribble block and then specifying the dribble block specifically, or we could create an all.js file, which I'm going to do in my blocks directory. So we're going to create all.js, and this will essentially do what I just kind of proposed, but slightly differently in one file as opposed to bringing it out into many files. So we're going to go ahead and say dribble is equal to ACF dribble, and then I'm going to repeat this several times for each block. Cool, so we've got all of the blocks being imported into our all.js file, and then I'm going to write a module exports, and we're going to export an object which has access to each of these blocks. And because of ES6, we can name the values the same as the key. So I'll paste all of those in there and then just add commas. And now we can access all the blocks from the all.js file by going into, say, create pages. And then for each of these sort of template literal strings, we're going to break it open and say blocks dot and then the name of the block. So it'd be like this. And then we're going to import blocks from our all file. So if I go blocks all, then now we are tapping into each block. We don't actually need the word block after each one because that's not the correct name. And I'll just double check and see if it's used in any of the other post types. Nope, it looks like we're all good. So yeah, so now you can see that our Gatsby node file has been reduced dramatically. There is some web pack config that I'm doing for one of my Mail2 plugins I'm using on my site. But in theory, if we run Gatsby develop now, or npm run develop, we should be able to build the site as before. It's just a bit more organized. We might hit 1 or 2 errors while spinning this up. Fingers crossed we don't, but you know, if it runs perfectly the first time, I'll be a bit suspicious. Cool, so we've got an error. We can go ahead and stop running that command. And it looks like it was in our create cases, where it says nodes was not available. So if we look back up the top, we've got query get cases, WordPress, case studies, and then nodes. And if I scroll down, I feel like this might be WordPress case studies. Okay, so because we were accessing data.wordpress.cases, not .casestudies, it was accessing an object property that didn't exist. So if I rerun this again, now it should work, because previously we were accessing cases by here, but it's called case studies. So fingers crossed. So you can see now with our new console logs as well, we're getting create cases and create page. And then for each blog post, we'll get a ton of those because I've got 200 and something blog posts at the moment. But everything is now, there's a couple of warnings, I can fix those later. But yeah, everything now exists separately in our node directory, with our blocks in their own directory. We've got our own GraphQL fragments as .js files, and then we've got our create cases, posts and pages within their own separate functions. If you wanted to create category pages or tags or users, you can go ahead and use JSON files example. I might do an update in the future where we create category pages just to organize my blog posts a bit more better than just the post date. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, subscribe. I'm going to be doing some more Gatsby and WP GraphQL sort of best practices and sort of reworking some of the logic that we've been implementing in this video series.